If I told you there was one mental switch that you could flip and it would fix social anxiety, eliminate procrastination, end depression, destroy addictions, solve relationship problems, and even make you wealthy, you would probably guess I was another liar on the internet. I know that it sounds impossible, but I'm a biomedical engineer who spent 20 years trying to understand why some people thrive while others suffer. And here's what changed everything. I discovered that what ancient traditions call magic is actually real. And it all comes down to this one switch. This switch is so powerful that it's not even a secret. It's hidden in plain sight in every religion and verified by neuroscience. It's so simple that your ego will reject it, and it's so effective that once you flip it, you can never go back to suffering the same way again. The switch is this. Stop asking, what can I get? Start asking, what can I give? That's it. That's the whole video. But wait, because I'm about to show you why a scientist who used to be a complete skeptic now knows that this one switch is the most powerful spiritual technology on Earth. Let me prove it to you. Here's exactly how this one switch fixes everything. Social anxiety, fixed. When you walk into a room thinking, how can I serve here? Anxiety is impossible. In the sales world, they say, needy is creepy. When you have an agenda, whether it's selling something or wanting validation, you come off as weird. But you can't be self-conscious when you're other-focused. It's the secret weapon for feeling genuine and being genuine. Most people just want someone to show real interest in them. This simple idea is the basis for the classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you only take one thing from this video, let it be this. Just try it. So, I've used this in my life to get rid of social anxiety over and over to the point where I feel like now I don't have any social anxiety. Whenever I'm going out to a social gathering or whatever it might be, a party, maybe we're going out to a bar, a club, whatever it is, now that I have this mentality, the only thing that really affects me is maybe my energy level, but it's never, anxiety or nervousness about talking to people, because I know that I'm not trying to get something from them. I want to help people. I want to talk to them. I want to have great discussions. I want to build our relationships. I want to find out more about them. I want to give them ideas. Now that I'm doing this work on the WayOfService and on this YouTube channel, that's all what I'm all about, is helping people with ideas. So I never come into a social situation feeling like, I'm feeling nervous, feeling like it's not going to go well, because I'm not trying to make it go well for me, right? And if it doesn't go well because somebody else has a bad agenda, or because somebody else wants to be awkward or ends up being awkward, I'm going to try to help them with that. I'm going to try to make it not awkward. I'm always coming with a positive aspect to these social interactions. And I've found that to be incredibly powerful for basically any social, how much of our life is social? It's almost all of it, right? So I hope you guys can feel that, or maybe you've tried that. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm back after a vacation, our second vacation in 6 years. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Definitely hit the like button. It helps the channel a ton, and tells me that you actually like what we're doing here. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Hey, we got a lot of folks here. Uh-oh. Warning, the stream is something, I don't know. Let me know in the chat. How are we doing? Are we still hanging in there? Have we had any disruptions? When I started out, I had some drop frames, so I was concerned that maybe there'd be a problem, but I get this warning before and it doesn't really do anything. All right, we've got Heidi, Susan, Eleanor, Ryan, and Tim all in the chat. welcome, guys. Eleanor says, seems good. Great. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it. Let's see. Okay, Eleanor says she's excited. Thank you, Eleanor. My number one fan. My number one fan is my wife. My second number one fan is my mom. All right. Hi. Wow. Eleanor says, LOL, needy is creepy, right? Isn't it? Isn't needy so creepy? You can just tell when somebody is not thinking about you at all. And it's almost a default. Most people, even if they're not selling you something, they're kind of interested in their own internal dialogue. They're kind of selling you their perspective, or they're selling you their story, or maybe they're selling you who they are. Maybe they just don't have people to talk to, so they just kind of unload on you, right? And again, I think that last part is more normal. People come off as normal when it's like that, but it also starts to be like, okay, are they going to ask me a question? Do they care about me in the interaction at all? Or are they just going to tell me what they think about everything? And then it's like, they could be talking to a brick wall. It wouldn't matter if they're not waiting for me to respond, right? So there's a lot of things that are socially awkward, socially incorrect, I guess would be the way to put it. And most people don't spend time thinking about social skills. And I think that in the way of service, this is definitely something I want to try to help people with, is understanding that social skills are the most important skill. We're gonna get to that in the very next section of the video, actually. All right. Thumbs up. All right, great. Great. Don't forget to chat, guys. I'm here for the live viewers, so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. If you have any thoughts and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should put that in the chat, do put it in the chat. Your chats really keep me going. They help spur us, I think, in the right directions for the discussion. And although I've prepared a lot of material that I think is great, often I feel like some of the best discussion comes from what you guys say in the chat. So let me know what you think. And we will cover any questions or comments you put in the chat. I read out loud, so it's going to be fun. All right, let's continue. Oh, okay. Before I continue, I'll answer this chat. Eleanor says, I want to hear more about the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This book is a fantastic book. You can listen to it for free. At least you could, as of maybe a year ago, last time I listened to it, on YouTube for free. The guy who does the narration is just the best voice ever, so it's really enjoyable to listen to. And it's really just about how to win friends and influence people. But what is that? It's like learning about people. It's remembering things about people. It's figuring out what people want and helping them get it. It's very basic things, but it is the way of service, and it's kind of this very aware of the other person way of service. The idea of, I think he added and influence people. It's like how to win. He could have just made it how to win friends. It probably wouldn't have sold as well. People want to know how to influence people, and people do this, and you can see this, right? The needy is creepy. When people are doing these things, they're learning about you to get something from you. I mean, you can sense that. But still, the lessons are important. Just like, if anybody's ever read the 48 Laws of Power, the author of that book is like, because people ask him, it's like, is it right to read this book? It's like, well, you need to understand these things because they'll be used against you, and also because they have positive and negative aspects, right? Like social skills have positive and negative aspects, the light and the dark. Sometimes people can use social skills in a negative way. Just look at politicians. Ryan says, an excellent book, a classic. Yes, exactly. All right, everybody. We will continue. If you guys if you have any more questions, I'll be checking in the chat real soon, okay? Next is money, the service paradox that pays. I've been trading and investing since 2009, generating millions in returns. And here's what 15 years of market experience taught me. The way of service isn't just philosophy. It's measurably the highest ROI strategy at every level. That's return on investment for you guys. MIT documented 250% returns when factory workers learned basic communication skills to better serve teammates. Executive coaching returns 788% when leaders switch from what can I get to how can I serve. You can see in this graph, this is just a basic graph of, there's the communication skills that we were talking about before, just basic communication skills generated an incredible return of over 200%. And then when the higher end of companies, like the executives, were trained in even higher level social skills and focusing on helping other people, it generated 700% returns. Every point of emotional intelligence adds $1,300 in annual salary, because emotional intelligence is the ability to serve others' emotional needs. The research validates what I've proven in my portfolio. Money flows towards service, not extraction. Who gets promoted, referred, trusted with opportunities? The person trying to extract or the one genuinely serving? Most money problems aren't about lacking skills, but being oriented backward. The universe has built in a reward system for those who contribute rather than take. This same principle drives my investment strategy and explains my best returns. Show you another graph. This is even more dramatic. Conscious capitalism companies, those genuinely focused on serving all stakeholders, outperform the S&P by 14 times over 15 years. In this graph, you can see 1,681% versus 118% from the S&P. This study is from the Harvard Business Review, and it confirms what I've watched in real time. Service-oriented businesses consistently beat profit-oriented ones. Companies prioritizing customer satisfaction, employee well-being, and societal contribution don't sacrifice profits, they multiply them. This creates a double opportunity that I've personally exploited. Practice service orientation yourself for direct career returns and invest in companies that embody it for portfolio returns. Whether you're earning or investing, the principle remains constant. When you align with service rather than extraction, and when you solve problems instead of gaming the system, wealth follows naturally. After 15 years proving this with real money, I can tell you the market is slowly discovering what consciousness has always known. Service is the ultimate competitive advantage. I really do feel this way, guys. I've talked about this in other videos. The future of investing, the future of companies, I've talked about we're living in an ascending age. And I really do think that people are demanding, part of this ascending age is that more and more people are demanding that the companies that they work with, the companies that they invest in, do the right thing. And I think we've all become pretty cynical about companies being evil, companies doing the wrong thing. But I think we should be open to the idea that the world is actually improving. Because when you look for the evidence of things improving, you find it. And I see it, just one basic idea is that you go into Walmart and there's an organic section, right? These companies have to focus on their customers. They have to be listening to them. They have to be working with them. And they can't just be focused on profit. I know often it appears that that's what they're focused on. And in fact, it's their job to make everyone think that they're focused on profit for their investors. It's actually their legal duty. It's, maybe not the greatest law of all time, but legal duty is to make sure that the shareholders are getting return. But if they someday could pick up the WayOfService and make the argument, and I'm sure a lot of them do make this argument, that retaining customers, focusing on retaining employees, having a positive culture for both the employees and the customers is vital to long-term profits and long-term health of companies. And that's really what the data shows if you study it. And I'm planning on, and I want to show you guys more of this data and get more in depth on the money and investing aspects of WayOfService. But that's not the focus of this presentation today. But I really do feel like this is going to be a revolution in the next, few decades, 100 years, whatever you want to call it. And if you're wondering about like which companies, there's a few that were in this study, and you guys will understand as soon as I say it. Whole Foods Market, right? Trader Joe's, Starbucks, Panera Bread. Okay, those all came up. Also, I think Google came up. And say what you want about Google, but they are always trying to come up with a new way to make that their products more user friendly. My wife and I were comparing Google or Android to Apple. For those of you Apple people out there, I'm sorry, but Android has a lot more little features that make it easier to use. They call them quality of life features. Something like autocorrect working a certain way, or an extra button on the screen that does something that you often need to do. That kind of thing is little improvements that give these companies that are focused on what is the user experience, what is the customer experience, and improving it. Whole Foods Markets, I had one of my best friends, I don't know if he's in the chat, Yale's not in the chat, but he worked for Whole Foods, and it was amazing how they really had a culture focused on the well-being of the employees. I believe that almost everyone had a stock bonus, so they all had like an investment in the company. They were doing things that were kind of revolutionary when they came out. And obviously Whole Foods was very successful. They were bought out by Amazon. Amazon is also on this list of customer-focused companies. So say what you want about these big companies. Also Starbucks, I'm sure people in here have been to Starbucks. One of the great things about Starbucks is that you kind of know what you're getting. That's what made McDonald's so successful, is that you could go anywhere in the country to a McDonald's and you knew what you were getting. Kind of feel like that's not really the case anymore, but I haven't been to McDonald's in a long time. I also don't really love Starbucks. I kind of feel like they're selling sugar all the time, but they still understand customer service. They have a system, and the employees have really been trained in the customer service and how important it is. And not every company does that, surprisingly enough. There's another industry where it's very obvious to me that things are changing, and that's in the medical and in the food industry. And again, say what you want about the medical industry, but the actual status of the medical industry doesn't just include doctors and hospitals. The alternative medicine has been growing at an incredible rate. People are demanding these things, and as a response, a lot of hospitals and doctors do start to talk about some of the things that we always thought that they should talk about, right? Positive mindset, diet, some of the long-term things that they've ignored. And the same is true in the food industry. Again, things like organic food is becoming more and more well-known. Local sourcing is becoming more popular. Removing negative, bad ingredients in food is becoming more commonplace. And so we can see that these things are moving in the right direction. What do you guys think in the chat? We've got some chats here. Okay. What are the things he says to do? You're talking about the book? The book. I think I mentioned in the previous response about what he says to do. It's really learning about the other person, figuring out how you can help the other person with what they really care about. Figure out what it is they really want, and then figure out what you can do to help them in that area. Everybody has something they're really excited about. That's a great question to ask somebody. What are you excited about right now? What are you excited about in your life? What project are you excited about? What are you excited about coming up in the next month, 2 months, things like that. And then they'll tell you maybe they're about to take a vacation. Maybe they've gone somewhere that you have been. So you can tell them what you know, right? It's just a lot of ways to help people directly. Matthew's here. Hey, Matthew. Matthew says, I read that book when we were in Amway. Yeah, in 1990. Hey, it's worth giving it another visit for sure. When you lose your life in the service of others, you shall find it, from Matthew in the Bible. Exactly. Yeah, that's a great quote. It's like people are worried, we'll talk about this a little bit. People get worried about following this way because they're like, well, what about me? But that God and Spirit and the universe conspires to support you when you follow this way. And that is what that quote is telling you. When you lose your life in the service of others, you shall find it. Eleanor says, so when you can see companies highlight their social giving and service orientation, it's not just for street cred, but for good profits too. Never thought of it that way. Well, yeah, and I think that that's part of what's going on. I think the age of cynical capitalism, maybe you think of, or at least I think of the movie Wall Street from the 80s. It's like just taking advantage of as many people as possible. And that does still happen, obviously. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is that the companies that survive and thrive in the long run have to follow the way of service. If they just focus on profits as far as, cutting costs and getting the most money as they can out of the customers, right? There's a lot of ways to look at it, but if they just focus on those things, they won't be a long-term successful company. The only way to be successful in the long term is to think in the long term, creating loyal customers who care about you, care about your company. They want to see you succeed. Word of mouth is one of the greatest ways to grow your company. And if you don't know this, if you haven't been a business owner, it's, I think, 3 to 10 times harder to get a new customer than it is to retain an old customer. So losing customers is far more costly than, or I guess retaining customers is far cheaper than trying to replace a lost customer with someone else. And it makes sense if you think about it. If you're trying to grow your company, you want to bring more and more people under your fold and as a fan of you across the world. And there's a set amount of people, in the market for your company's product or service. So it is just the way it is. And I think that more and more companies are understanding it. It's becoming more of a mainstream idea. Ian's in the chat. Welcome, Ian. Aunt Matthew says, back in 1998, Cedars-Sinai in LA was the first hospital to mainstream massage in hospital. Now it's in almost every hospital. Perfect example, Matthew. Thank you. Eleanor says, my earlier comment, I thought companies were highlighting their social focus just because it's in. Do you think that's why they do it or why they do it for profit and then it happens? Well, it's a great question. And I'm almost like it doesn't matter, right? It's kind of like fake it till you make it. Those of you who haven't tried the way of service, you just try it, right? And even if you can't feel it inside you, you just try it externally. So I would say the companies that are doing it for the right reasons and the companies that are doing it for the wrong reasons, the ultimate result is if they're really doing it, that's all that matters. And their intention does matter ultimately, and hopefully they'll align their intention with what they're doing. That's the real way to have power in the universe. But for those of us on the receiving end, I think God and the universe conspires such that if someone is working to help you, it's going to come to you regardless. It happens to be good for street cred too, right? Yeah, I think, again, I think if their intention and their actions are aligned, their street cred will be that much higher, right? They will actually get more benefit when it's clear to people that they really do care about these things, right? I just think about Google, and say what you want, I think they're doing kind of nasty stuff in the privacy realm and in the search result realm. It seems like they're kind of censoring and stuff, which I don't think is good. But as far as their products go, they are focused on making them more and more user-friendly and more useful for people using their product. And I feel like they're at the cutting edge of that, right? And because they're such a big company, it makes it easier for them to devote I'm sure they have a whole department of their company devoted to that kind of thing, research and development and user experience and things like that. Yep. All right. I think that's all the chats we have for the moment. Let's continue on. Depression. Fixed. Depression is a persistent feeling of meaninglessness. The moment you find someone to serve, you have meaning, no matter how small. This meaning is the spark that can reignite your life, and once you realize that only you can give your unique gifts to the world, your cosmic meaning becomes crystal clear. And of course, studies show that helping others is more effective than antidepressants for treating mild to moderate depression. I have definitely used this one when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling kind of lost or aimless. I try to think, okay, my work is helping people. That is the purpose of my work, and so I can get back and do it. I mean, that's really what brings me back every week to talk to you guys. That's what drives me. I'm hoping that it's obvious that my intention and what I'm doing align. When I think of the way of service, I want to get it out. I want to make it successful because I really think it can help people. I really think that what I'm sharing can help people. I hope that it's, unique and in the marketplace of ideas. So whenever I wake up feeling unmotivated or I don't feel like doing my work, which doesn't usually happen, I really love my work, but whenever there might be something else bringing me down, I try to remember this way of service, this, what can I give? Who needs my help today? That kind of thing. And it's obviously not always about work, especially because I have small children and a wife and, friends and other family members. Who you can help today might involve making a phone call to remind somebody that you're thinking of them, or to tell somebody you're thinking of them, checking in with someone who might need to be checked in on. Just doing your daily chores and work with a positive attitude because you know that it's helping your family or helping, whoever you're living with, whatever your situation might be. Whatever the mundane thing is, God and the universe have brought this thing to you as an opportunity to exercise the way of service. Procrastination. Fixed. You procrastinate on things that only benefit you. You never procrastinate on helping someone you love with something that they need. When I first started the way of service, I had a lot of trouble sleeping. I would wake up at 3 a.m. on the dot over and over. Finally, I prayed and meditated about why this was happening. The answer I got back? You have a lot of work to do, and you are way behind. I realized that I had been procrastinating on helping the world all these years, and I was way behind on helping the people in the world that needed my help. This is why all the great religions teach you to love everyone. When you understand this, your work takes on new urgency. So let's go back to that example I just gave. When you're someone you love needs something from you, you don't procrastinate. The word procrastination just doesn't come into the equation. If somebody shouts from across the house, hey, help, I need your help. You're not like, I don't really feel like it. I'm going to get to that in a few hours, days, or whatever. It's like, that's not how it works. The key is you react right away. And if you can apply this idea to your life, to, in general, the world, people out in the world, strangers, if you understand that the people that you haven't yet met yet need your help, they could be your soul sisters or brothers, you just haven't met them yet, and they need your help. That should give urgency to the idea that you can share your unique gift with the world. If you think about, so that experience I had waking up over and over, and I asked the I Ching, why do I keep waking up at 3 a.m. over and over? And it said, because you have a lot of work to do and you're way behind. As in, there are a ton of people out there who need my help and I'm not reaching them. So let me just ask my wife to do something real quick. So okay. Make sure. Sorry, technical issues. Just briefly. Nothing's ever perfect. We're live, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to do these live stream. I don't want to do these as pre-recorded. I think it's way better live. I enjoy delivering them live, and yeah. So yeah, if you can apply again, so that's what we're just talking about. If you can apply the idea that even strangers are loved ones, right? If you can love your neighbor as yourself, if you can love even the stranger as you love your own family member, you will understand that procrastination is a really bad idea if what you're doing is helping people. Now, again, you don't want to stress out about it. Like, you're not going to get stressed. I think God understands all of our difficulties and all of our challenges. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to procrastinate if what you're doing is helping people. All right. Addiction. Fixed. In the search for meaning, our addictions become placeholders for the real meaning we need. When there is nothing compelling in our lives, we fill that void with a wide variety of behaviors that give us short-term dopamine. But once you tap into the truest source of meaning and dopamine, you will never go back to wasting your life. I used to play a lot of addicting video games, but since starting the Way of Service, I play about 1/10 as much of the time. When you flip this switch, reality becomes more rewarding than escape. So this is similar to the procrastination area. Addiction is kind of like something that takes away your energy from the thing that you really care about. The clinical definition of addiction is anytime some behavior negatively impacts other important parts of your life. And so addiction is kind of like procrastination, but with energy. Procrastination is wasting time. Addiction is wasting energy. So when you understand that your work is serving people that you love, again, it could be serving strangers, if you learn to love strangers, or serving your family, whatever it might be, serving yourself, you should love yourself as well. Addiction is similar to procrastination in that you'll find that you don't want to engage in these behaviors because you understand and feel the meaning and impact of the work that you're doing. Relationship problems. Fixed. Every conflict in a relationship comes when both people are trying to get from each other. A resolution can only come when one of the parties makes a show of good faith by stepping towards the other. This is true compassion. It doesn't mean letting yourself be run over, but can you forgive and forget petty differences and give someone the grace that they need? How many of our broken relationships could we heal if we just let go of our demand that the other give us what we want? Lao Tzu said, "Your enemies are not demons, but human beings like yourself." I have a short, it was one of the first shorts I did maybe a whole year ago almost, called my $100 million business idea, $100 million business idea. And it came to me when I realized that we should be applying customer service ideas and skills to our real life relationships. And it came to me when I was on a road trip with my wife and we were fighting all morning. And it really just turned out that she just needed my help. She just needed me to give her compassion, to help her with the situation. I think we were both on very little sleep, as often happens with small children. And we both thought we were right, and at some point, I think we both were like, what are we even fighting about? And, I was the first one, I think I remember, maybe my wife can tell me in the chat, I was the first one to say, what do you need? And as soon as I said that, she just changed totally. Her attitude changed, her position changed, and it fixed everything. It's like, what do you need? I need you to help me with this, And it was very obvious from there. So I was like, and I was just formulating the Way of Service or discussing it, and I've focused on the spiritual aspect of the Way of Service, but there's also the business aspect of the Way of Service. There's the scientific aspect of the Way of Service. I'm trying to cover all these things, But I was focused on the business aspect in that at that time. And I really do feel like a lot of these skills in customer service, right? Like understanding what somebody's trying to do, understanding where they're at, where they're coming from, what problems they have. This is customer service. And if we can apply this in our lives, then it would change everything. And then vice versa. If we can apply the care and love that we bring to the people close to us to the business world, that could also change everything. So if you're interested, check out that short. Also, purpose and guilt about your selfish desires is fixed. You know, there's a lot of things that we all want for ourselves, right? But if we can think about how those things might actually serve the world, not just ourselves, maybe they serve our family, but if we can figure out how to extend the benefit out into the entire world, we can let go of the guilt that we have about those selfish desires. I recently had this discussion with my wife because she was talking about, she loves dance. And she's like, well, it seems so selfish. It's very self-focused. And I was like, well, make it about helping people. Now you can pursue the thing that you love, but you're doing it in a way that helps people. And so when you take any selfish desire that you have, or interests, thing that you love in the world that you want to do just because it makes you happy, if you can figure out how to make that thing make other people happy too, all of a sudden your guilt is gone. And you might even find that might be the entire purpose of your stay here on earth, is to share what it is that you love. All right, we don't have any more chats, guys. If you're still with me, let me know. I don't even know. Give me a hell yes in chat if you're there. All right. Am I still connected? I'm hoping that I didn't get disconnected. Let me know in the chat if we're still connected. All right, I see a chat. Here we go. Eleanor says, "Hey, I did that on Sunday. That being letting go of guilt about selfish desires. I tried to get to dance early so I could do proper warm-up for myself, and it didn't happen because I was taking care," I'm sure you're going to say, "of the kids," or something like that. All right, we'll finish your chat in a moment, dear wife. Now, you might be thinking, if it's that simple, why isn't everyone doing this? Great question. I only discovered this after hitting rock bottom myself. 1 year ago, I had everything but felt nothing. Engineering degree, successful career, beautiful wife, financial security. But I was anxious, depressed, addicted to distractions, and constantly asking, is this it? To be honest, I'd really spent the first 39 years of my life focused on what can I get. Even though I had spent 20 years studying spirituality, meditation, and philosophy, I'd been focused on myself the whole time. How do I achieve happiness and peace? How do I manifest what I want? But it wasn't working. Nothing was working. Finally, something snapped, in a good way. I had a day where I was feeling disgust for the world. I had that feeling for many years, to be honest. It had led my family and I to a remote corner of the world, away from everyone. But this day must have been the breaking point. I saw all the bad headlines and went outside for fresh air, but even the air seemed toxic. It must have been God himself who put the thought in my head. But you can fix this, Danny. Suddenly, in that one life-changing moment, everything was reframed. Instead of being angry, I realized all my years of study had prepared me to embark on a journey to convince people to treat each other better. Instead of asking, what do I need? I asked, what do I need to do to help? And maybe the world really needs my unique gifts. That question changed my brain chemistry. Literally within 5 seconds, my anger and anxiety dissolved. Not diminished, dissolved. Because for the first time in years, my consciousness had somewhere meaningful to flow. When I returned to the spiritual texts I had studied for 20 years, the same answer was staring me in the face. So I've told this story. I've told this story many times, right? That day, and I wish I had written down. Maybe if I look it up, I can look what date it was. I was angry. I was looking at headlines. I was unhappy, and I saw the chemtrails, and I was really just like, and my printer broke, and everything was just awful, and I was just fed up with people treating people badly. Just it seemed like everyone in the world was screwing each other over. The headlines really show that politics can get you down. Warfare in the world. I felt like my printer broke because they sent an error message to it, not because there was anything wrong with it. You might have experienced that, right? Your phone breaks. I even talk about this in the very first video of the Way of Service. If you want to hear, I made that video basically in response to this day. But Apple actually had to pay a giant amount of money, billions of dollars, I think, because they were found to be making their phones go slower with their update. And it was the older iPhones, right? So they actually sent a message to the older iPhones to work slower to make people buy the new iPhones. And that kind of thing, I was just like, this is the exact opposite of what everyone should be doing. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I suddenly realized I can help with this problem. I have studied this kind of thing. I've been studying, social skills and psychology and spirituality and all these things that point towards helping each other. And I feel like I can make the argument. And that's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm doing 1 year later, or a little under a year later. I'm making the argument. And I really feel like that is what I'm trying to do with this channel. I want to prove to the world that the way of service is the way to be. I think we've got a lot of chats. All right, we're back in the chat, guys. Let's see. Let's put it on. Okay, my audio went out when I did that, just like last week. But anyways, all right. All right, so Eleanor was saying she was letting go of guilt about selfish desires. I tried to get to a dance early so I could do a proper warm-up for myself, and it didn't happen because I was taking care of things for the family. And I was so salty and bitter. And then I remembered that all the things that made me late were in service to my family. That's great. That's great, Ellie. I'm guessing I would have heard more about your negative feeling if you hadn't self-corrected there, so that's great. Eleanor says, it felt like someone took something from me, but in the end, all the choices I had to make were in service, so there was no need to be mad or salty or guilty. Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I feel like is just over and over the lesson that we need to learn. I talked about that. I think it fits into the Yugas framework. If we're going to get to the next age, right now we're in the Bronze Age. We just came out of the Dark Age, and we're headed to the Silver Age. And in the Silver Age, it's all about helping each other. Right now, in the Bronze Age, it's about individual expression. That's the dominant energy. But ultimately, that will dissolve away and turn into service of each other. So if we want to make it to the next level, we really need to focus on this. And I think that that's the lesson that the universe and God is always presenting to us. Whatever small difficulty you're facing, if you can reframe it with the way of service, I really think it changes everything immediately. Susan says, big question, is this it? Right. And sometimes, I think I asked that question maybe earlier today, that's why you need to have a spiritual practice. That's why you need to be doing things in service. And often when we ask that question, we're in a negative headspace. Sometimes the universe and God is making us take the next step, even when we can't see the light. Right? There's a great Frozen 2 song, The Next Right Thing, and it's about that. It's like she's in this horrible, dark place, and she's so sad and depressed, but the next thing to do is right there in front of us, right? And that is often what God is asking us to do is, even in this negative state, can you do the next right thing? Can you do the next positive thing? And if you can, you'll see how quickly you can get out of that dark place. Oh, Ryan encouraged Ellie to keep teaching dance classes. Yes. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan says, if dance class is anything like the few piano classes I've taken, it's more about practicing than academic learning. Yes. Susan says, Dance for Women has one class and another class for men and women? All right. Ellie, let us know what you're going to do in the chat. I think everybody's very interested to find out. I've spent the last year synthesizing this way of service with modern research and ancient wisdom, and then combining it with my biomedical engineering training. What I found will blow your mind. Your brain is wired for service, not metaphorically, literally. When you operate from getting mode, your amygdala activates, stress hormones flood your system, your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes good decisions, goes offline. You're in survival mode, even if you're just thinking about getting likes on Instagram. But when you switch to giving mode, something miraculous happens. Oxytocin releases. That's the love hormone. Serotonin increases naturally, which is better than any antidepressant. Dopamine regulates properly, which ends addiction cycles. And your vagus nerve activates, calming your entire system. Studies from the University of Michigan show that people who volunteer regularly live longer, have lower inflammation markers, and report 44% less depression than non-volunteers. But here's what nobody talks about. The benefits happen instantly. The moment you shift from getting to giving, your brain chemistry changes. I'm talking about seconds, not weeks. Watch this. Right now, I'm not worried about views or subscribers. I'm thinking about you, the one person who needs this message. Why don't you try it? Instead of thinking, what will I get out of watching this video? Think, how many more people can I help from watching this video? Can you feel the radical energy change? That's the switch in real time. And I don't know if you guys can feel it, but I really do have that switch. And this also goes back to the social anxiety aspect. Maybe this is the best example of it. If you're giving a presentation and you're thinking about the person that you can help, you don't feel nervous. It doesn't matter how many people are listening. Because if you screw up or you don't do it perfectly, it's not taking away from your intention to help someone. And that's what I feel in real time. So I didn't really have to make that switch in this video because I feel like I'm doing that. I've been doing that from the whole time. But if you can do that switch right now, just as you're watching, can you feel the difference between watching this video for yourself and watching it so that you can help others? Let me know in the chat what you guys think. Ryan says, and JP might answer, it depends on what you mean by this and it. JP, is that Jordan Peterson? Is that what you're talking about? Eleanor says, that would be lovely. Thank you for the encouragement. Yes. Timothy says, I know someone who loves to dance. I struggle with shyness about dancing in the presence of others. You go, Ellie. I've told you, Ellie. I've told you. We need your help. We need your help desperately on this dance subject. I'm telling you, we are a totally broken society, broken generation when it comes to dance. Everybody feels totally awkward about it. We were at a party on Saturday or Sunday, and I was talking to people. Everybody said the same thing. We all are desperately in need of help, of someone to take us out of this negative headspace about dance. Right? And maybe we should apply the way of service to dance. How can we dance to make the other person feel good? I'm going to have to do that next time I go dancing. How do I dance for the other person? The thing about it is it's like hard to do if you don't have the right technique. And like Ryan said, it's practice, right? It really is practice. Ryan says, I'm with Tim on this. We will be standing over by the wall talking while everyone else enjoys the dancing. Exactly. See, there's another one. Eleanor says, that's the best part of dance is sharing it and encouraging other people to enjoy it themselves. It's not about how it looks. Well, we need you to give a class on that, Eleanor. We really do. Susan says, but thinking how we look is why we are shy. Right. Yeah, so instead of thinking about how you look, you think about how to make the dance fun for the other person. That, I think, might be a great reframe from the Way of Service. That's your Way of Service dance tip of the day. Not that I'm a great dancer, but I need to be because my wife's a great dancer. So the pressure's really on me, then more than on most people. All right. Here's what's amazing. Every spiritual tradition discovered this truth. Jesus said, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Moses said in Leviticus 19:18, love your neighbor as yourself. Buddha said, if we fail to look after others when they need our help, who will look after us? Lao Tzu said, take care of those who are deserving, also and equally, take care of those who are not. And I'll tell you, that quote right there is what started the Way of Service. That was what drove me to the Way of Service, is Lao Tzu's quote right there. So powerful. Take care of those who are deserving, also and equally, take care of those who are not. Oh, I had a Krishna quote, but I guess it disappeared. There's a great Krishna quote about service, but I'll bring it up in another live stream. Muhammad said, you are the best people ever raised for the good of mankind, because you have been raised to serve others. Oh, there it is. The Krishna quote, but I don't have a slide for it. Krishna said, through selfless service, you will always be fruitful and find the fulfillment of your desires. There, again, when you are selfless and in service, you actually get your own desires brought to you, fulfilled. And Al-Ghazali of the Sufis said, to be a real Sufi is to lift up those who have fallen, to wipe the tears of the suffering, to caress the friendliness and the orphaned, or the friendless and the orphaned. To be a real Sufi is to lift up those who have fallen, to wipe the tears of the suffering, to caress the friendless and the orphaned. Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, Hinduism, Sufism, and on, through hundreds of religions, the message of service reverberates. These prophets and avatars weren't speaking metaphorically. They were describing a technology, a consciousness technology that transforms suffering into purpose. See, the getting orientation is what the ancient texts called ego, or the small self. And the giving orientation connects you with what they call higher self, or divine nature. You don't need to believe in God for this to work. I gave you the neuroscience and the health benefits. And remember, companies and individuals who prioritize giving and service end up richer than anyone else. You know, to me, this really shows the unification of all the religions. You know, Jesus had just two messages for people. Love God with all of your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And that word neighbor to me is really everyone. He used the word neighbor to make it easier for those people who he was teaching in the Dark Ages. But if we can love everyone as ourselves, this is in the Tao Te Ching and the Wahoo Ching from Lao Tzu, he explains there is no self and other. All of creation is part of God. We are all unified in spirit. And so if we can act in the spirit of service, we really are carrying out the will of God. And so when we carry out the will of God, that's when we get all those benefits, those blessings. I talked about this in one of my better performing shorts. I mentioned, we are having an effect on multiple dimensions, but when we act in the way of service, we get that billionfold blessing. That's when the entire universe conspires to help us. And there's so many beautiful stories of people who have been helped by miracles when they're in the act of helping someone. And you will find that your entire life will be filled with miracles, synchronicities, signs, positive things encouraging you all the time when you set upon this path of the way of service. And that's really what I'm here to tell people to do. I also want to share with you guys this item right here, the Hawkins emotional scale. And again, the way of service takes you from any of these negative, the contracted list right here, you can see at the bottom, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. Those are all the negative ones. And if you can take those and convert any of those into willingness, right? It's right there. Willingness is right there. Willingness to help. And even higher, you can go to reason. I've explained to you the reason why the way of service is correct. It's logical and correct to be acting in this way. And if you can move up into love for one another, love for strangers, love for your family, love for yourself, all of these things, you can see how this emotional scale, I've said it before, that every single spiritual teaching is teaching us how to move from one of the lower spots on this emotional scale to one of the higher spots on the emotional scale. Any spiritual quote that you read or instruction is trying to convert some of these negative emotions into the more positive ones. And to me, the most basic and simple and correct one is service. When nothing else works, service works. That's been my experience. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh, yeah. Still talking about the dance thing. It's so fun. It's so cool. I love that this is what we're talking about. What is going on? I'm getting a warning again. So let me know if you can still see and hear me, guys. Eleanor says, it's even about practicing getting over your shyness. Exactly. Eleanor says, and kind of sitting in the moment of feeling like an idiot and deciding to stay anyways. Yeah. Timothy says, as a vocational minister, I have served many people. I have never been more satisfied in my life. Much success came during those times. Ryan just shared an actual moment that recently happened. Is that, have you shared that in the chat, or are you talking about a conversation you guys had? Cheat sheet for dancing. Yeah, that couldn't hurt. Heidi says, it's almost like God said the same message to all his children. Exactly. I just put out a short yesterday about that. Same message to from every single prophet. Ryan says, what kind of minister are you serving? Severing all those people. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe don't sever people, Tim. Don't. Okay, just don't do that, buddy. Even if it sounds like you really enjoyed it, but I don't know if you should be doing that. You got that, Ryan. Yeah, severed. Exactly. Hey, Shane's here. Welcome, Shane. I hope you're still with us. Popping in briefly. I don't know if you're jumping out, but all right. Well, welcome to the stream, my friend. Timothy is clarifying the record. I don't think he was actually severing people, but we'll wait to find out if he was actually severing people, or maybe he was just serving them. All right. So here's how to flip the switch. Starting today. The morning reset. Before you check your phone, ask, who can I serve today? Write down 3 names. Could be family, friends, or strangers. Your brain will immediately start solving for them instead of worrying about yourself. In every conversation, silently ask, what does this person need? Not what they're saying, but what do they need? Recognition, understanding, permission, hope? Give it to them without asking. Again, this is all about solving social anxiety and how to make a conversation flow, like what questions to ask. Always the most interesting questions to ask are the ones that really drive towards what somebody's excited about, what's important to them in their life. So this is the best way to build relationships. And also, not just in the moment, right? Not just in the conversation, but I really would love to help people, show people that you're thinking of them, right? Give somebody a phone call, send somebody a text, tell them, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. I'm really curious how you're doing. You know, that kind of thing goes so far to maintain relationships and to make people feel like you really care. Because you really are caring when you do that. And, you know, I really think that in today's age, everybody's too busy. Everybody's taken on way too much. And I think that is the state of things. And, you know, maybe that's why the world has pushed me or pushed me to present Taoism. I feel like Taoism is like, hey, stop with all the things, right? Just accept what is and simplify your life so that you have time to show people that you're thinking of them, to show people that you care about them by reaching out. I feel like my work allows me to do that on a regular basis, but I really encourage people to reach out to your friends, your network, see how people are doing, follow up on that conversation. You know, so many people are like, oh yeah, send me that idea, send me that book, oh yeah, it's great to talk to you, we should hang out, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing happens. And I think it's really important that we're true to our word. If we say something to someone, that we then do that thing, and also go above and beyond. You know, go do something that you didn't even tell someone you were going to do to show them that you care. That's really going to blow people away. And that kind of thing is in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, but it's also part of the Way of Service. The work reframe. Whatever your job is, find out who it serves. The customer, your team, society. I guarantee someone's life is better because of what you do. Connect to them mentally before you start working. You know, I was recently, this came into my consciousness, I don't really know why, but maybe it's so I could share it with you. I really was thinking of how everybody who asks the question, you know, what do you do? The answer is always something that serves people. Right? No matter what we do, that's how the world has been structured. And I think it's, you know, as I said, we're in this ascending age. I think more and more that's going to be the case. More and more people's jobs will be oriented towards helping other people. But even people who aren't helping other people with their jobs, they frame it in a way that helps, that shows that they're doing something productive, something helpful. And if you aren't, you might find that you're not excited about your job, and maybe you should find a different one. You know, if it's not really serving the world, then maybe you should find a different job to do. Or better than quitting your job tomorrow because Danny told you to, better than that is figure out how what you're already doing actually helps people. And if you can't figure that out, maybe you can figure out how to just do small things in the workplace that are of service and make people's lives a little better, a little brighter. So I found that to be a very interesting fact. You know, next time you hear someone telling you what they do, really focus in on how they're helping the world and help them to see how they're helping the world. It might really brighten up their perspective on what they're doing. and lead to a really fun conversation, I think. All right. Shane says, reminds me of the Simpsons Halloween episode where the police car said protect and sever. Nice. We have to be the new WayOfService meme. Yeah, I don't know. Can I create my own memes? I guess I can, right? I haven't even worked on that aspect of the business. Tim severed us all with a laugh. I needed that. Thank you, Tim. Shane says, I've been running an auger all day, putting up chicken fence. Bed is calling me, and I'll have to catch this later. Sacrificing my body to protect and serve those hens. Many such cases. We know a lot of people who are serving their chickens. I understand, Shane. Eleanor says, the pessimistic perspective. I'm not sure what you're saying there. Oh, the pessimistic perspective would be, there's not enough time to be there for everyone, so gaze free. Okay. Oh, fewer friends. The optimist would say you can just say, I've been so busy, sorry I haven't followed up, but I want to, haven't had the chance. Okay, so you're saying the pessimistic perspective would Tim says the way of severed. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, I need a moment. The way of severed. I'm going to start a new channel, guys, and Tim's going to help me. It's going to be called The Way of Severed, and it's going to be a totally different approach to things, you'll see. All right, so Eleanor says the pessimistic perspective would be there's not enough time to be there for everyone, so have fewer friends. And the positive, the optimist would say, I'm sorry, I've been busy, and I haven't followed up, but I want to, and I haven't had the chance. Right. That's really a key thing, is letting people know that you haven't talked to them in a while, but maybe you don't have time, and they're totally going to understand that. But just that little message, you don't even have to go beyond that. You don't even have to have a conversation. Just be like, hey, I'm thinking of you. I wish I had time to chat with you, but I don't right now, and I'm looking forward to having the time. As far as how many friends to have, again, I take a Taoist perspective of this. Like, the people that are in your life for a reason. The people who you call friends, or who call you a friend, or who might be your friend, by chance, if you took action, they're probably there for a reason. And yes, I think that we should be doing our best to serve other people, and the people that we can really serve are the people that are in our life. That really includes all the people who are in your network who potentially could be friends or who are acquaintances. So you could take the pessimistic perspective of, I don't have time for these people and I'm just not going to do anything. But I think that would be wrong. And I think that that's not what God wants us to do. And you'll see that the universe will conspire to help you and help you find the time if you have the intention of reaching out and being a good friend and serving the people in your network. Eleanor says okay. Timothy says we're going to have several channels, but I like it. Exactly. All right. The social media service check. Before posting something, ask, will this serve someone? If it's just for validation, don't post it. If it could help one person, post it as a service. We all know people who don't post as service, right? We all know people who are just posting to promote their own ideas, to promote themselves. And that's kind of one of the reasons social media has this like negative feeling to it. Because so many people are there to get your like from you, you know? I think sometimes they're sharing something which is interesting or fun to other people, and so they're actually doing a service by accident. But when they don't have that intention to help and uplift other people, to share something exciting and fun, if they're just doing it to promote themselves, maybe they're selling something, right? Needy is creepy. Those people, those ads, you're scrolling through your feed and you see something and it's designed to blend into your feed, but you can tell it's weird. It's like selling something. It's lying to you or whatever it is. They're not serving, right? And sometimes you get an ad that you can tell they're actually serving. They're actually providing a really beneficial product or service. But you can tell the difference, right? And this idea also applies not just to social media, but to all technology that we're using. AI, other forms of social media, the mobile devices, TV, whatever it might be. Are we using it consciously? Are we doing it as a service to ourselves? Maybe we need to relax, but also are we doing it as a service to other people? Maybe you're showing it to your children. Are you really serving the world best by the way that you're using this technology? And I really think that technology is facing humanity with these moral choices. As we ascend spiritually, and as technology grows with our ascension spiritually, I believe that those things are correlated. As those things happen, with great power comes great responsibility. And so the more power and alignment with spiritual truths we have, the more technology, more powerful technology we have, the more responsibility we have to do the right thing. And the more damaging it will be to us and others if we don't do the right thing with all of this technology. Yes. So the problem with the switch isn't that it's too simple, but rather that most people can't do it. They can't trust God and the universe to take care of them. They cannot completely accept where they are right now. They cannot release the demands of their ego. They cannot embrace the Tao without skepticism or panic. That's a quote from Lao Tzu. So I want to give you 3 warnings about this switch. Warning number 1, your ego will hate this. It's going to say, what about me? When do I get mine? That's normal. That voice gets quieter over time, but you will have to convince it with all the evidence, practice, and ancient wisdom that you can find. I was going to maybe do a live stream entitled, Don't Forget to Be Enlightened. Because sometimes, we get into a negative state and we just forget to apply any of these practices or quotes or realizations, and we just stay in that negative state. And it's in those bad days that we really can make a transformation by orienting towards the way of service. But it's also very difficult. And we have to remember, I talked about this in the last live stream, we have to accept that we're going to forget to accept. We have to accept that we're going to forget to follow the way of service. And so that is one of the keys, is to remember to be enlightened, remember to do this. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. All right, not a whole lot. Ryan says, being friends as an adult seems so much different and more difficult than my younger periods. So that's a great point, Ryan. And I actually think that that's also a societal thing. You'll see that friendship is on the decline right now. And I think that the truth of the what's going on is that we're going from unintentional relationships to intentional relationships. The unintentional relationships are going away. And a lot of that is because of technology. People are doing things from home. People are working from home. People are having fun from home. People are going to school from home. And they're using technology to bypass a lot of these places where we would have had these unintentional relationships. And, in that state, people are losing friends. But I believe that the solution to this is the next phase of friendship and society, which is intentional relationships. People are going to realize as time goes on and as technology takes over more and more of these things, in order to have real relationships, we have to be intentional about them. And I want to talk more about this on the channel. I really think that this is a revolution idea that came to me. We have to transition into intentional relationships. And that goes back to everything that I've talked about before, about serving people, reaching out to people, saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, I remember you. That really makes the difference between these unintentional relationships, which I think are fading out. And another reason that they're fading out is because I think relationships require more upkeep now. People expect you to text them and call them because they have this technology. and because we're not regularly seeing each other in the physical flesh. In order to see people in the physical flesh, we have to be intentional about it. We have to make a plan and see people. And that's just the fact of where we are. You can cry about it, you can be upset about it, you can embrace it, and you can see the positive aspect of it, which is that intentional relationships are way deeper, way more meaningful, way more chosen than unintentional relationships. So I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. I think that's a point I want to make, and I will continue to make. Susan says clickbait. Right, clickbait. Yeah, exactly. That's, the definition of clickbait is basically lying to someone to get their click, right? So they're not serving you. They just want to get something from you. And everybody knows that it's gross. Eleanor says, especially clickbait that runs on making you doubt or not like yourself. Exactly. That's social media. Again, if these people, when they posted, if they thought about, is this going to help people or is this just going to get me more sales, they would make a different decision. And to me, it's like you can't take wealth with you when you pass on. What you do in this world that's positive is really what matters, what's going to echo in eternity, as a quote from Gladiator. So just trying to make money is not actually the way to be. If you really think about it, it's pretty obvious, honestly. Clickbait that runs on making people angry so they'll fight in the comments. Yeah, exactly. Van Halen fan is here. Welcome to the chat, Van Halen fan. All right. Warning number 2. People will think you want something. Our culture is so getting oriented that pure service confuses people. Don't explain. Just serve. They will sense something is different about you. Eventually, they will understand that you are genuine, and many will actually love you back. There's always going to be people who get it and people who don't. And your job is not to solve it for every single person or reach out to every single person and get them to agree with you or get them to like you, right? Again, that's getting. It's in the phrase I just said, getting them to like you. It doesn't matter if they like you. Serve them anyways, right? The Lao Tzu quote, I'll put it back on the screen. Take care of those who are deserving, also and equally. Take care of those who are not. Even if somebody doesn't get it, serve them anyways. Even if somebody doesn't like you or thinks that you're doing it just to, social climb or whatever, do it anyways. In a previous live stream, I used this analogy. We want to be a lighthouse and not a lifeguard. A lighthouse just is stationary and shines its light for anyone who can see it and it can help. A lifeguard dives in to help the drowning person. Maybe some people need to be lifeguards, but in general, you should be the lighthouse. Shine your light without any expectation for the outcome. That's a direct quote from Krishna also. Warning number 3. This isn't about self-sacrifice. You can't pour from an empty cup. Serving yourself is service. There is no one else who can take better care of yourself than you. You just have to do it in balance. Buddha said, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself. That person is not to be found anywhere. This is also like the airplane emergency instructions that tell you to secure your own oxygen mask before helping anyone else. My wife and I have learned how important this is in the many challenges of parenting. Sometimes taking a break or drinking a glass of water is an extremely necessary step to helping someone else. I know that she's not watching because maybe you can hear the kids in the hallway. So my wife is not watching anymore. But I want to play this back for her because it's so important. There's a lot of people, I think, including my wife, who are almost on the wrong end of this way of service. They're serving so much that they aren't taking care of themselves. And that's not right either. And I believe very passionately that we are here to enjoy our life. The service to yourself involves doing the things that you love, enjoying your life, finding ways to enjoy your life, finding ways to be in balance, finding ways to be in tune with God, to be in a positive state. It all works together. You can't serve the world if you're in a negative state or a depleted state. If you've studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't take care of other people if your own basic needs haven't been met. If you haven't gotten enough sleep, if you haven't eaten enough food, if you haven't drank enough water, if you haven't taken enough deep breaths, right? If you haven't relaxed today, if you haven't talked to God, if you haven't meditated, all of these things are very basic things that you need to be doing on top of the rest of the things that make your life worth living to yourself. When we were just traveling, if those of you know, we were on vacation, every time we were on the plane, I think we took 4 planes, so every time we were on the plane and they would say, make sure to attach your own oxygen mask before helping other people. I would tap my wife and be like, you listening? You better listen. Because it's such an important message. So many people forget it, especially parents. And also, so many people who, if you're trying to act on the way of service, but you're doing it in a way that feels unbalanced, you don't feel good about it, there's something missing inside and you should be serving yourself in that moment. And I have been working on my wife to help her understand this and help her do it because it's very difficult for her. And maybe I'll have to have a video about the other end of the way of service, overdoing the way of service. But we'll see if that's a problem that many of you guys have. So I call this the way of service, not because it's my idea, because it's the way of every spiritual master, the way of every happy person, the way of every meaningful life that's ever been lived. You know why you clicked on this video? Because you're tired of trying to get your way to happiness. Your soul knows there's another way. The switch is right there. You can flip it right now, this second. Stop asking, what's in it for me? Start asking, how can I help? Stop asking, why me? Start asking, why not me? Stop asking, when will I be successful? Start asking, who can I serve today? The world doesn't need more successful people. It needs more people who flip the switch. It needs more servants. It needs you. This is Daniel from the Way of Service. And if this message served you, don't thank me. Go serve someone else. That's how we change the world. One switch at a time. However, you can hit the like and subscribe button. If you enjoyed this presentation and this live stream, please do that. It does help the channel. We're going to check in with the chat, and we have reached the end of my presentation. I left Lao Tzu's quote on the screen for a little too long. That's okay. All right. What do we got here? Marco's here. Welcome, Marco. Timothy says, we discussed love bombing in relationships that are empty. Maybe a similar concept. Love bombing. Very interesting. Yeah. I feel like I mentioned something earlier that relates to love bombing. It's like when someone says, oh, I love that thing. I'm totally going to check that out. I'll send you this book. I'll send you this video. I'm going to follow up with you. We should get together. Da, 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 da. That could be considered love bombing if they never do it. Right? They're doing it in the moment to make you feel good, but they don't actually have the intention or the ability to follow up on it. So I would say love bombing is giving someone love in a hollow way, or almost like lying to them. You're telling them that you're going to do something and then you don't do it. Right? That's love bombing at its basic form. Grooming, Tim. Grooming. Interesting. I'm not sure how that relates, but it's a serious word. Ryan says, money is such a convoluted topic and fascinating. How many different definitions and understandings there is makes talking about it hard to be succinct. And people have such a variety of relationships with it, ranging from love to hate and disgust and ambivalence. Yeah. So Ryan, we're gonna have to have you back on the as an interview so we can talk about some of this stuff. We didn't get into the more philosophical things. And I realize it's because I'm supposed to pull a Joe Rogan and have a 5-hour interview with you. So next time I'll be ready for that. But yeah, money, money is both what you just said, but I think it's also almost not important, right? Money, the Chinese say that it's like water. You don't try to hoard water. You try to figure out the best way to make it flow in and out. To me, that is the most powerful way to approach money, whatever form it takes, right? Be it fiat currency, Bitcoin, gold, silver, stock, whatever. It doesn't matter. It is a tool to help us serve. It is a tool to help us interact with each other. And I hope that in the distant future, money won't be a thing anymore. Once people realize that they can have or do or be anything, that they have total abundance, money won't be a thing because we won't have any scarcity, right? But until that day comes, money serves as like a signal, like prices are a signal to show what's important to people, and it serves certain purposes in society. But as far as in our individual lives, I really do believe that if we can let go of our fear surrounding money, then God will help solve those money problems. It's something that people talk about a lot in the manifestation world, and I think it is true that if we don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And another thing about money that's very true is until some day comes where you don't have enough money for something you need, right? That's different from something you want. If you don't have enough money for something you need and you don't get that thing, right? Maybe it's food, maybe it's shelter. That's when you can finally say, I didn't have enough money. But if that has never happened to you in your life, then you've always had enough money. And it's almost like you always had $100 billion because you didn't ever run into a problem, a real problem, right? And not getting what you want is different from not getting what you need. So I think that people are going to realize that in their life, they have gotten what they needed. At least most people have. And I think that that's something that we should all, help the world to try to help those who are less fortunate than us. But I think most people who are listening to this probably have had all their needs met in their life. Or at least they're still living, right? You're still here. So even if you didn't have your needs for a short period, maybe you learned something in that period, ask God what that meant. But I do think that everything happens for a reason, and ultimately money is kind of unimportant. And I understand that that's easier said than done, and I'm not trying to say that to make anybody feel bad about their money problems or to wave away money problems. I don't think that that's the case. But I think the idea is that we're not supposed to fear, right? It says in the Bible 365 times, do not fear. And so if money is bringing fear into your life, you need to change your perspective on it. Susan says, love your conclusion. Thank you. Thanks, Mom. Ryan says, beavers hoard water. Yeah, I guess they do, don't they? Yeah, there's always an exception to every rule, isn't there? Use it for a purpose. You say I use it for a purpose? Or just use it for a purpose? Oh, they use the water for a purpose. Right. They're doing something. They're not really hoarding water. They're using it for a specific purpose, right? Not really sure how beaver dams work, but I'm guessing it basically gives them a place to live. So I wouldn't consider that hoarding water. So you'll have to find me another example, Ryan, of somebody hoarding water. All right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've reached about the end of this live stream. We've reached the end of the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed this format. I feel like I've improved it a little bit. I really enjoyed it. I think this was a great live stream, if I do say so myself. I don't think I will be doing a live stream next week because big deal thing happening in our life. My mom is moving in with us, so I'm going to pick her up and drive all of her and her stuff here next Tuesday. That's really exciting. My two biggest fans will be living in the house with me. We're really excited about that. It's going to be a huge help and benefit to our family, and also I think it's going to benefit my mom. It's a way of service step, I believe. Despite any fears or misgivings anybody might have had about it, we're doing it. So wish us luck in that life change. It's a big deal. So I will not be doing a live stream next Tuesday. I'll be trying to get out as much material as I can, but I got a lot of things to do to get ready for the move. I've got to file my taxes late, all these things. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm doing my best to keep the channel going, and I think we did a good live stream, so hopefully that is true. Susan says, be grateful for what you have, not focus on what you don't have. Exactly. That's right. I guess that is what I was saying about money, right? You've probably spent more money in your life than you think, right? And you've probably spent money on things that you didn't need, and you're still just fine, right? So I think one of the great things in life is to not think about and worry about money. That's one of the reasons people want more money, is so that they can not worry about money. And I think that's legitimate, but I think often it's kind of out of reach for most people, and it's not even, you end up worrying more about money because you don't want to worry about money. It's like a paradox. It's like an inverse paradox that's not true. So instead of worrying about money to get more, try not worrying about it and see what happens. Try focusing on the way of service. Try asking God what you're supposed to be doing instead of worrying about making more money. I think that is one of the main messages that I want to relay here at the Way of Service. And you guys let me know in the chat and in the comments what you think about all that. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Oh, here we go. Ryan's telling me who hoards water. Okay, toads, camels. Yeah, I guess, yeah, camels. That's the closest. I would say. I don't know toads. I'm gonna have to look that one up after this. Gooses, geese, hoard water. I don't know, man. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. People hoard money too. They really do. I mean, just look at the world. There's plenty of people hoarding money. It's a thing. Maybe I hoard money. Maybe I need to work on that. But I'm doing my best. I'm trying to change and be the way of service. I used to hoard money a lot more than I do now, and I'm always open. God, tell me where you want me to send my money. I will do it. I am not against it. So, everybody, I love you guys. I love doing these live streams. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I will be back with you hopefully within the next 2 weeks, maybe sooner, we'll see, but count on it. In 2 weeks, hopefully I will be able to do a live stream. And in the meantime, I'll be releasing some shorts and hopefully some edited videos, and I hope you guys enjoy those and check those out. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next live stream. I love you. Bye, guys.